So then, yes, what are some structures you would find within the oral cavity? You said teeth. What else? Okay, when you say that, that's true. There is a palate, but we need to be a little more specific. No, they're both upper, the upper portion of the mouth. Right. What does it say here? Okay. The anterior palate, you can feel that with your tongue. Okay. There's actually bone tissue there, because what happens is when we study the skull, okay, on top of there's a bone called the vomer, and when those two portions of your palate get fused, that actually sits right below where your vomer is. Okay. And you might ask yourself, what is significant about the vomer? Well, that is what separates portions of your nasal cavity. Okay? And then further back, or the posterior side, you have a soft palate. And you can feel that with your tongue too. Now, with young Jackson here, what are some issues that he's having fixed? Yes, there is a cleft lip and a cleft palate, but what issues is that he would have problems with later on in life? Okay, you'd possibly have a lisp, have problems chewing, you'd have problems with the surface or roof of his mouth. All of those would cause issues later on, and with that, we can see the surgeon is fixing them appropriately. Now, we've thought about this, but we'd never really discussed this. Now, with the muscles there in the wrong spot, what do we know about muscles as we age? They do get weaker, that's true, but as you work muscle tissue out, it typically does what? Gets bigger, okay? So you would want those to be in the correct position, and that is what Doc or the surgeon is working on, getting this in the appropriate place. So then it's not just digestion that is affected by this. What else takes place inside the mouth? Because he said he's hypernasal, breathing and speaking. Okay, because sound will just not resonate appropriately as it comes out of your mouth. It's something that we actually take for granted, which means we accept that, and it's something we don't have to think about because we are fortunate. Maybe some of you know someone who actually has a cleft lip. Maybe, maybe not, and maybe even a cleft palate. Now, some of those disorders are quite a bit more extreme than others, but luckily for us in a developed country like this, we can have that fixed. Unfortunately, children in third world countries or those that are not as well developed probably have to find a way to deal with this, live with it, because for those of you next fall, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I'm still trying to get used to this. There's 4 seniors in here, right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, I skipped you two, didn't I? You're in here for zoology. Okay. I skipped. I did that intentionally. See if Preston knew, but he's right on top of things.
Buddy president.
So
I'm going to say that to everything.
Okay. Do this.
Let's all clap.
Thank you.
No, that's not what this means. It just means.
Is that enough?
No, maybe. I don't know. I just know President Trump does that a lot. It means power to the people. Whichever. Okay. So one of the things that whether you're going to a technical school or going off to a university or the workforce, what is the first thing that you notice when you meet new people? What do you see first?
Their eyes.
Okay, that's really that's the right answer. That's really specific. Okay, yeah, more so the face. That's something that all cultures probably notice the first thing. And when you go visit other lands, you're going to notice the face first. Okay? And then I think when you don't know a person, even like my dad has to carry this, it's a little card in his wallet, so if he's out and about in Sioux Falls and he has to communicate with someone they don't understand, he has to pull that out and say, I had a stroke years ago and I can't talk very well. It's just one of the things that happens, okay? So when we notice those aspects, I hope we don't make fun of those. I think we're mature enough not to do that. I think one of the things that, and I never noticed this, one of the, if you want to call them graduate assistants that was up at SDSU working on her doctorate degree. When she was walking around, do you call that pigeon-toed when they're, and they were, her big toes were actually pointing towards each other. I just didn't pay any attention because she walked a little funny. So I'm old and fat. I probably walk funny too. So with that, I like to think that we're a little more mature, that we would probably laugh at an individual like that, because if that person is working on their doctorate, chances are their intelligence is probably off the charts. Not that any of you in here aren't intelligent, but this would be to a whole new level. And I just wonder, gosh, to work on a doctorate degree, that's a lot. Okay, I'm trying to envision what my research paper is going to be like. Probably try to keep it under 30 pages, I hope. Well, I'm not there yet. So, okay. So, as we move forward then, okay? Everybody's probably seen this. Let's see here. And just didn't know what it was. Shoot. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here it is. Okay. First hour remembers me walking around with this. It's a what? But when you were a freshman, this wasn't a tongue depressor. It was what you bent to design your arch. Okay. Otherwise, yes, a tongue depressor. You use this to hold the tongue down. Can anyone make themselves throw up? Do you have to use a finger or another object, or is it something that you can just think about and cause yourself to throw up? Okay. And shoot, I meant to ask Doc that on Friday when I had an appointment with him, that it was something that we talked about in class, alcohol poisoning. Luckily, the human body does have a way to expulse, if you want to call it that, get rid of substances in there that are in too high a concentration or that are maybe detrimental to the body. But this actually has smooth muscle attachment. Okay? Does anybody know what's the difference between smooth muscle and skeletal muscle? Well, it is, so smooth muscle, but skeletal muscle does just that. It actually moves your skeleton. But with this, okay, as you swallow, it just hangs down. So this is a side view. As you swallow, so food is moving this way. It just flips up like this, okay? So it prevents food from going into the nasal cavity. So it's something that we can't live without. But if you were to, I would say, disturb that with some sort of foreign object, I don't know if it's whether you're sticking your finger in that far, that might cause it, or maybe it's just part of the tongue. Since this has smooth muscle attached to it, attached to the structure, this actually moves when we throw up, because if we did not have this structure, where is this expulsion or vomit? Where's that going to go without that structure? Then through the nose. Okay? So one of the things, and it has happened, sometimes that can happen to people if they snore a lot, for instance. In other words, what happens is their tongue will go in the back of their throat and it cuts air off. So then eventually what happens is all of a sudden they quit breathing. Okay? Well, if there is a seal on that because of the uvula, that can cause suction to cause your stomach to expel some of the materials in it. And then if that were to flip back down again, that is going to come right through the nose. And what did we say is inside of the stomach this morning? Well, hydrochloric acid. Okay? Stomach acid. That is really, really concentrated. It's inside of our stomach. And we'll talk about that later on in this chapter, because that concentration in there has, you could say, an effect on how well we digest proteins. And it acts like a switch in a mechanism, again, like we will talk about later on in this chapter. Okay. So, does anyone in here still have their tonsils that you're aware? I would expect probably a lot of hands to go up. Okay? So then, throughout the course of, I wouldn't say medical history, but procedures, some doctors will say, take these out. Some doctors will say, no, just leave them in. And that's why you see some people's hands go up and others not. My older brothers, both of theirs are gone. Okay? I still have mine because it was believed that it could cause problems later on in life with, used to get sore throats a lot, and this might have had something to do with it. But for those of you who have had yours removed, can we remember that at all, if you don't mind sharing, or was it pretty tough? I think if that does take place, it's hard on the throat because of the pain that you actually go through. But your tonsils have two functions, okay? Okay? Well, I should say one major function. That's right here, okay? So that's not the only place that we talked about. There was lymphatic tissue in the digestive system. This is one spot, the back of your throat on the tonsils. Where is possibly another spot? It's called a lacteal. That was the specific name of it. And where would that lacteal be found? And it's plural. There's a whole bunch of them. There's not just one. But there's one for every finger-like projection inside where? Inside the lumen of your small intestine. That's right. You actually have those lacteals that are also part of your lymphatic system. Okay, we want to get to mouth and teeth. Let's see here. Let's maybe get through secondary and permanent teeth. Is there a better term than babysitting? Is that still what it's called? Yeah. Okay. Has anyone done this babysitting at this stage? My estimation, that would be awful. Okay? So why is it that we would say, bless your hearts, for those of you who have done this, why would we say that this could or would be awful? Because they're going through this process right here. Okay? And I think the explanation for that, and it makes sense, is the idea that it gets more painful later on in life. The older you get, the more painful this could or would be. So that's why, just the way the man upstairs designed us, or we could say what nature selected us to do, is actually have this take place within this time frame. So for those of you who again have done this babysitting, does this work? These frozen, they say pacifiers, but I think it could be any type of object. I've seen like what looks like pretzels, put it in the freezer, and then you give the infant something like that to put in their mouth.
Yeah, they work.
They do, okay. They do work.
I'm gonna be quiet. A little bit. Until it gets warm.
Did you, is there Benadryl in the closet? What's that expression for? I'm just asking a question. Is there Benadryl in the closet?
You don't give babies Benadryl.
Well, I mean, you don't.
Yeah.
I don't either. I'm just asking a question. Okay. No, I would agree. Something that really doesn't belong here. Okay. So turn back the clocks about 10 to 12 years. Okay, that would be about right, I think, on average. Is the tooth fairy still?
Yes, my
still-
sister got $5 for one singular tooth.
I'm sorry, that's just the way you're saying that. That's hilarious.
I got like a quarter, bro.
It's so not fair.
Inflation.
Yeah, it could be inflation. Yeah.
That's why my government is gonna work to get rid of inflation. We're gonna make it.
Shut up. I'm gonna be quiet.
Okay. So that's still a thing, the tooth fairy. Okay.
What do you mean it's still?
My sister also lied and wrote a note to the tooth fairy, obviously my mom, and she said that she lost her tooth when she knows dang well she didn't lose a tooth, period, and then my mom still gave her $1. Liar.
You're probably just jealous because you didn't think of that.
Because I'm not a liar.
Oh, well, that's true too. Well, as far as I know, but yeah, the tooth fairy was around when I was growing up too. So some things haven't changed, but.
Why do you keep acting like the tooth fairy isn't real, Mr. McKay?
Well, it's just because we can't see it. Yeah, it could still be there. All right. So now, when we see secondary teeth, which means those that came in second, and they're permanent, so they replace these deciduous / baby teeth. Is there a problem if you lose a tooth now?
Yeah,
Why would that be?
No
because there's no more.
other tooth.
Right.
It's not like sharks.
So, you're right. How did you know that?
Because I know sharks got infinite teethers.
Hmm.
Sorry, I'm being too stupid for this class.
Now, our zoology students, where does that originate from? It's in the oral cavity. It's a something line system.
Sublime.
Yeah, it's a lateral line system. That you're right. Sharks have replaceable rows of teeth, and that's really what does happen. Okay.
Do they just have like one set that's in there already, or does it only come in when they need it?
No, they start to poke their way through. There's about 3 rows, and then they just keep moving forward. I don't know how or why that. I know why it does it. I just don't know how it does
How
it.
do they continue to develop a cartilage for the tooth? Because its teeth are cartilage, right?
No,
They're not.
nope. Calcified bone tissue, just like bone. A lot of calcium in it. Okay, so last thing for today. Okay, and they usually, as you can see, they're going to disappear and reappear in the same order. So probably your bicuspids in front, then would be your canines, then, I said bicuspids, didn't I? That's wrong. Okay. Your snippers, in other words, it's not your bicuspids, your incisors. I couldn't think of the term for just a moment. Incisors are the first ones, then your canines. The author says premolars. We don't like that term. We want to call them bicuspids, and we'll get to that at a later time. But we want to, well, continue with learning with Jackson. About Jackson, I should say. Yes, ma'am. Oh, shoot. I didn't mean to shut that off. Okay, so we'll continue with Jackson's oral surgery. So moving forward, we have a vocab quiz on Thursday, and it's the whatever first page of vocab terms, and that's the next one. I think it goes all the way down to the stomach. Okay, so that's your first vocabulary evaluation. So we'll catch up to you next time.